Game Related, where we highlight opportunities and obstacles from former athletes with the thought process of giving future generations a better understanding about the game.
These conversations are meant to bring awareness to the opportunities and the hardship that comes with the game. Let's get game related.
All right, y'all, welcome back to another episode. We're excited. This is our first college head coach in the building, man. And who better than our guy, Duane Simpkins? Duane, I always say, if you could have been a player and you had his resume as a player, you would have been really happy with yourself, man. So, he's here to talk about his early stages of playing, and then, the transitions in the coaching into him being a head coach at AU. All right, so welcome to the show.
My man, I appreciate it.
Yes,
Appreciate
sir.
you guys having me on,
Welcome.
man. Absolutely.
Yes, sir, man. So, first question we always ask is just about handling success. Everybody's trying to be successful, but once you get there and everybody's, biting at your coattail,
Yeah.
maintaining that level,
Yeah.
how did you maintain that level? And then also, how do you get some of your players to maintain that level of success?
Yeah. I guess early on, so when I was playing grade school basketball and everything, I didn't realize until like much later. But from the time that I played AAU basketball, at the time, I think that was real AAU, right? From 11 years old up until 15, 16 years old, every year I was deemed an All-American.
Wow.
And I remember, I think it was like I was 13 years old. It was the first time that I had become like conscious of it, of like, I'm one of the better ones. And I could feel when I did play guys, especially here in the DMV, like it was a little something extra that they came at me with, right? So for me, that was what I guess the thing that kept me of not being content, because I was like, in this area, man, there's like Moochie Norris, Greg Jones, all of these guys. Whenever you played pickup with them, it was a little something extra, like, oh, you're supposed to be good. So that always kept me grounded. And then besides that, I mean, my brother, who I played every day up until I was 14 years old, the first time I beat him when I was 14. That was the last time we played, but I had never beat him up until that time. So I had enough things to keep me somewhat grounded in terms of like, you're good, but you ain't the best. You know what I mean? And I guess it was just part of innately how I felt, man. Just like every day, just push yourself, push yourself. And I think that's what's carried me to today. And in terms of how I convey those thoughts to my players right now, it's just we have a saying: 1% every day, 1% every day. Just get better, 1% every day. You never be content.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool, man. That's cool. And I guess the last thing is, how do you keep the parents in line, if you can?
Well, it's funny with us, man. We have 4 core values, and
Okay.
these core values are the things that it's the foundation for the guys that are presently in our program, and it's also the means by which we recruit. And those 4 core values are character, work ethic, toughness, and humility. And if I see parents that don't check every single one of those boxes in addition to their sons, we don't recruit them. There have been a number of kids that I felt were talented. I felt that they could help our program, but they checked 3 of the 4 or 2 of the 4, and we're just not going to recruit those guys. And particularly with the parents, they don't realize when I go to a game and I'm seeing Johnny play, I'm looking at you too in the stands, and I'm seeing how you're interacting with other parents, how you're interacting with the people on the court, the coaches, and everything. It's been quite a few that just turned me off. I'm like, I can't have that in my program, because if you do it now, you sure as hell gonna do it when you get to college.
Nah, that's a great point.
Yeah.
Yeah, great point. So let's go back to your playing days a little bit more, right?
We're gonna go back. Man.
Yeah. So the Manford High School, you playing with Morgan Wooten, right?
Correct. Yeah.
All right. Talk about how much the game has changed since back then versus now. Just the style of play.
Yeah.
Before we even get into just everything else that has came.
Yeah, just schematically, X's and O's. There's a number of things that's different. We didn't do a bunch of ball screens and stuff, right? Back then, it was player movement. It was kind of like one-on-one. You could beat somebody, but we were taught at the math, and there's a reason why Coach Wooten was so good, and our teams historically were really good. Everything's based off of like teamwork and just fundamentals: pass, set a screen. How do you set up a screen? How do you use a screen? Catch, triple threat. Like those were the things that were the foundation of his success. And that's a big difference, I think, between then and now. Then also social media plays a part, man. You have kids who want to do a number of things on the court for themselves so that they can get highlights and get on this YouTube, this, that, and the third, man. It's like, and I don't begrudge that, but if you really want to be a really good basketball player, you want to play at the next level and possibly the highest level, you have to learn how to share the basketball and play with others in the system. I think that's one of the reasons why European basketball is, you can say it's slightly behind us even, or you very well can make an argument and say they are ahead of us. And I will say, from playing professionally overseas and seeing the junior leagues and the things that they do to help those guys improve and learn the game, they are light years ahead of where our young players are. Now, we'll say, from an athletic standpoint, we didn't have the kind of athletes that these kids are right now. Like, you got guys who are 6'7", 6'8", that jump through the roof and handle a basketball. But in terms of acumen and knowing how to play, there's not as much of that. And I think that's the reason why you see some kids that can do it, that are really athletic, really skilled, and can think the basketball game. They're just head and shoulders above everybody else. You know?
Yeah, great point. Great point. So he's a McDonald's All-American. Talk about how that made you feel, you know?
Damn,
Did you expect it?
I mean, I knew I was in a conversation because ever since my sophomore year through senior year, I was either ranked first or second. More times than not, it was second behind Jason Kidd in terms of being a point guard. And when you would go to Nike ABCD camp, which is top 100 players, you would play against these players in the summertime. Like, I was doing my thing, and my team was winning. Even important, more importantly. But I always felt like I was right there in the conversation. So I won't sound arrogant, but I was like, yeah, I kind of expected it. Okay. You know what I mean? But of course, it's cool once you do get the call. I think Coach Wooten is one brought me in the office and told me and everything first. And so that was a great moment, because that was one of the goals that I had set for myself. And Coach Wooten had always told us, like, if you got goals, write them down and put them somewhere that you're going to see them every single day. And I had mine in my bedroom mirror, and it was, Winter City Championship, WCAC Championship at the time. Was what we call it, WCAC? No, was it? I can't remember what it was, but when the conference championship and went Alhambra. And then outside of that it was MVP, the city title game, MVP Alhambra, McDonald's All-American, Parade All-American. And I was able to check all those boxes because I saw it every single day.
Hey, y'all heard it. Y'all heard it, man. That's a Rolodex right there. That's a Rolodex. So
I didn't mean to flex like that, but it was.
Hey, nothing wrong with it. Hey, man, put your chest out. We're cool with that. So then you chose Maryland. You decided to stay home. What made you choose Maryland, and then how was it planned for Gary Williams?
Initially, man, like when I grew up, I started off as a Georgetown fan. Okay. Like I had the Hoya starter jacket, the hat, the whole deal. But Georgetown didn't recruit me. I had recruitment from UCLA, Arizona, all around the country. I had nothing from Georgetown.
Damn.
And that was because Coach Wooten and John Thompson had a beef. I didn't know it at the time.
Oh, okay.
But they were not recruiting nobody in the math at the time.
Okay.
So my next dream school or team I really followed was Duke. And it was because of Johnny Dawkins. Johnny Dawkins and Tommy Amico were from the area. I had the number 24 jersey. I had the wristbands like Johnny Dawkins did. I wasn't as athletic as him. But Duke was my next dream. And then obviously being from the area, man, you grew up watching Len Bias.
Yeah.
You always had an affection for Maryland. Mm-hmm. So I actually visited Duke, and when I went there, man, I have innately, I've got this thing where, like, if somebody's supposed to be really good, I don't want to play with you. I want to go and beat you. And Duke was like, they were winning at the time. Yeah. They had Bobby Hurley at the time. And I was like, man, I'm not going to go here and play behind him for a year, because that's what it would end up being. Yeah. So, Maryland felt like home, man. I was being recruited really hard from the time I was a sophomore in high school. Billy Hahn, rest in peace, was the assistant coach at Maryland at the time. Yeah. Man, every time I turned around, Billy Hahn was there. Our AAU team was allowed to go and practice in Cole Fieldhouse every Thursday night. I would hang out with the players. So it felt like I was already home.
Yeah.
So that was a great experience, man. And then obviously playing for Gary was much different than playing for Coach Wooten. Gary, that you couldn't have. They were just completely different in
Okay.
terms of I've never heard Coach Wooten say a cuss word. And with Gary, I thought my middle name was motherfucker. You know what I mean? But Gary's thing was to push you as hard as you've ever been pushed, and nothing was ever good enough, and especially from a point guard position, because he was a point guard. Everything that went wrong on the court, that was on me.
Yeah.
So I got a chance to learn under two Hall of Fame coaches, man, and Gary Williams and Morgan Wooten. So tremendously blessed with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what's up.
Yeah, that's definitely a blessing right there. And that being under them and getting that experience, I'm pretty sure that probably had an impact when you went into actually coaching and stuff like that yourself. Yeah. So one of the most important things, like when athletes like going into their professional careers, picking an agent.
Mm-hmm.
How was that whole process for you when it was your time to go pro? And was you with the same agent for your tenure?
No, it's funny. Like when I came out, man, I was obviously didn't get drafted. Um, I went to Portsmouth Invitational Tournament,
Yeah.
and I went into that without an agent. When I went there, I was actually sat down and had dinners and meetings with a couple of agents because I hadn't picked one at the time. And I remember my first game, I had like 22, 5 and 5 or something like that. And I remember getting to my hotel room that night, and a couple of guys I had met with was like, "Yo, hey man, if you put another 2 or 3 games together like this, you could be a first rounder." And I was like, "Damn, all right." But at that time, I still had not picked an agent. My thing was at the time, I'm just going to play, and then I'll just figure it out after that. And my 2 or 3 games after that, I did okay. I didn't have the same game. Dirk Fisher had that kind of game for the next 2 or 3 games, and he ended up being the first round pick. And Moochie played well. Moochie played well enough that year to go to Chicago, and then ended up getting drafted himself too. So I didn't have an agent until after that, when I made the decision, like, all right, I could go to camp, but I'm just going to go ahead and we'll go overseas. And that's when I picked an agent. And I picked an agent at the time based off of his relationships with a few countries that I thought that I may want to go play at for my first stint.
Okay. And what was the leagues like outside of the NBA? I know today, you have the semi-pro, you got the big three and all that stuff like that now.
Yeah.
But what was the other leagues that were just options that was just there?
Domestically, it was the CBA at the time. And then the USBL. The USBL was kind of like in the spring, early summer months to get yourself in position to go get invited to camp, to some NBA stuff and everything. So funny, it's funny. I spent my first 3 or 4 years playing overseas. I stopped for 3 years. My daughter was born, and in my mind, I was frustrated because I was like, the idea was that I go overseas for a couple of years and then I work my way to the NBA. I actually played 2 years, 3 years. So you know what, I'm not going back overseas. Come hell or high water, no matter the money, I'm going back. I'm going to work my way up from the CBA. With that year, I decided to do that. They had the NBA lockout. So I was like, all right, I'll just go play in the CBA until the lockout ends. And Earl Boykins, I don't know if you remember him, with the Eastern Michigan. The team that I went to, Earl Boykins got drafted that spring.
Okay.
I came in, I was like, all right, I'll be the second point guard. They ain't gonna move him. They drafted him. So I'm playing well. It comes out that the lockout's gonna last much longer than anybody anticipated. And I think my man's name was Duane Martin, I think it was, whoever, I forgot his name. But the year before, this guy was a part of this CBA team I was on. He got called up to the Sacramento Kings. Coach sat me down after practice and said, hey man, like, Duane wants to come back while this NBA stuff works out. The owner's going to take him back. We ain't carrying 3-point guards. And he's like, man, I think you're an NBA player, but it's just bad timing. So they cut me. And at that point I was like, man, I'm done with basketball. I'm done playing. So I stopped playing. I say all that to say when I decided, so you know what, it ain't out of my system yet, I'm gonna go back and play. I had to work my way up. My agent would call these teams over in Europe, like, yeah, we remember, but that was like 3 years ago. He's like, hey man, you got to go play in the USBL. You got to do this and this. So I went back and I played in the USBL that spring. And one of my last games, we were in the semifinals. I had 49, 12, 11, and 5.
Cookie, he still remember his numbers too, y'all.
That's one of the best games I ever played because I was pissed. I was hot. So I played well enough to get invited to the Memphis Grizzlies Summer League team. Went and played there, played solid, and because of my play, I got an offer from Italy that I felt like I just couldn't turn down. But the USBL helped me to be able to kind of get myself back into the whole groove of playing back in Europe and everything.
Okay.
No, that was a long answer, but
that's fine.
Good.
But within that whole process of being in that grind, was there ever a time where you kind of fell out of love for the game?
During that time when I got cut, that was probably the ultimate time when I felt that way, and I felt like it wasn't fair because I felt like I was giving a lot to the game. I was in the best shape of my life. I had learned how to use angles better. I was better because I had never been taught really how to use ball screens. I was becoming like a maestro using ball screens and scoring and passing and stuff. So I felt like I was putting everything into the game at that point in time. And I was broke. I was like, yo, I need this, and for it to happen like that, that's when I kind of fell out of love with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then with the same type of question, was there ever a point in time when you fell in love, like on the coaching side of things?
Fell out of love or fell in love with it?
Fell out of love with it.
On the coaching side, nah, knock on wood, I haven't gotten to that point yet. Maybe years from now, if I get fired or something, I might have a different answer.
That ain't
for
gonna
you.
happen. We ain't gonna let that happen.
But nah, this for me, man, for coaching is, I don't think that I'll find a time where I'm out of love with it. I may be at odds maybe with administration if they want to go in a different direction or something like that. But my calling in coaching, man, is like beyond wins and losses. It's truly about all the things that I've learned from the time that I was 6, 7 years old playing up until the time that I finished playing professionally. I got so many stories and testimonies and lessons that I could pass on to the guys that I'm coaching. And it goes well beyond basketball. So like I really get a joy out of pouring into the student athletes that I work with.
Okay. And so what you say with the time, I know you said when I think you said your daughter was born.
Mm-hmm.
So was that around the time when you just kind of felt like, okay, I'm done with basketball, like far as playing.
Yeah.
Playing days are over now. I want to transition to
Yeah, that coincided with that whole situation with the CBA, right? So yeah, that time, that's what kind of made me transition. And I always knew in the back of my mind that I either wanted to get into sports broadcasting or coaching. And I did the sports broadcasting thing, and I really liked it. I mean, I called games. I covered some stuff at the Final Four when I was doing stuff with News Channel 9. I did some stuff with News Channel 4. I covered some college games. It's funny, my very first game that I actually called, it was myself and Chick Hernandez. It was on HTS Sports. It's probably before y'all time, man. But it was on HTS Sports, and it was an American versus George Mason game at American University. That was my very first game that I called.
Wow.
So that's what I thought I wanted to do. But after I really got into it, man, I was like, I didn't get the same juices going of like being on the court. And I wanted to find something that was as close to playing as possible. For me, it was coaching.
Okay.
Yeah.
So So with the broadcasting, I was always curious, like, so is it that you have a itinerary or certain points that you going to talk about, or is it really you watching the game and we just going off, feeding off each other?
Oh no, you have to do it right. You do your homework and everything. I was blessed enough. Coach Wooten had set me up with James Brown. James Brown was still working, I think, at CBS at the time, and like I went to his house. We sat down like for half a day, and he was just giving me this different tidbits of information and enunciation of your words and stop using your hands so much. He gave me a bunch of stuff, man. And we were talking about preparation. And he was like, it's no different than you going into a season knowing that you got to work on your free throws or your left hand float or whatever the case may be. You got to put the time into it. And from that, man, I realized like, hey, if I'm going to call this American versus George Mason game, I got to drive out to Fairfax and I got to sit down with Coach Larry Nader. I got to go watch practice. I got to know who these players are that I'm going to be calling the game on. What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? And do the same thing for American University so that when I am calling a game, people feel like, man, he knows what he's talking about. You know what I mean? So the preparation was really, really big. Really big. Yeah. No, you don't get out there and it's like, oh yeah, man, 32, what's his name again?
So let's jump into you just kind of walked into your transition period, right? Like how long did it take you to kind of figure out, all right, broadcasting and then no, I want to go into coaching? Like a lot of players struggle with that transition coming from sports to figuring out what they wanted to do.
No doubt.
How did you, I guess, have that plan already set up? And then I guess how long was that tenure before you went from broadcasting and the coaching? Like how give us a time span on that.
So in terms of the transition from playing, I like to use the term being on scholarship. Right? Where things are just
on life
given to you and like, oh, you know, go to the club, I ain't got to pay, I can just walk to the front. You know, I go to this store and they just it's 50% off or they give it to you. Like, I mean, I was on scholarship, bro, for like years. And especially being here at home, I was on scholarship and like it was a blessing and a curse at the same time. I saw, you know, Travis Garrison talking about it, man, but like you really can get, you know, high off of that. And it makes it so that that transition from scholarship to post-scholarship is hard. It was, and I'll be the first one, man, like it was hard, you know, to come to the realization that like you didn't achieve your ultimate goal, which is to play in the NBA, and you're a quote unquote average Joe now. Like that's real. That's real. So it took a while, man. It took a while. I bounced around from, you know, I was part owner of a business, pager and cell phone business, and then I was doing basketball training. I was an assistant coach with the JV team at DeMatha. I was doing the broadcasting. I was like, because I didn't know, I was just kind of like trying to search. You know what I mean? But I thank God that He kind of took certain things away in terms of He took the plan away and made me focus on, all right, you got these 2 or 3 things now. Now you got to hone on these, do them, find out what you're passionate about. Don't find out what it is that, oh, I think I can make money off of this. What are you passionate about? I wasn't passionate about a cell phone and pager business. All right, push that aside. So now it's broadcasting and it's coaching. And again, what got my juices flowing, what I was passionate about was like being on the court every single day, teaching, coaching. And that's what drove me to coaching. But that took some time, bro. It really did.
Yeah, nah, you hit it on the point. I like how you said scholarship. I like that word better. You know what I mean? Because it is definitely a awakening.
No doubt, no doubt. Everybody, man, you know, God bless them, man. You see so many guys, you know, whether it be on Facebook or Twitter, whatever, like they continually post it, like, hey, I did this when in '88, this. They can't move on. Like it's cool to go back and, you know, periodically touch on those things, but you see guys that haven't transitioned and they're still kind of like, I'd be willing to bet internally they're still fighting with that. And that's tough, man. But I think even more so nowadays because of mental wellness and people knowing that that is a real thing. I think the kids that are coming up now, they need that even more so. You know what I mean? To be able to make that as seamless as possible, that transition to scholarship, post-scholarship.
I was always told, like when I work with players, like you can't be a real trainer or a real coach if you're still mentally competing with the guys you teaching. Seriously, you know what I mean? It's like they've always. I remember there was a time when dudes would just want to play me one-on-one.
Yeah, right.
And I'm like, bro, but like that's not what we trying to do here. Like you coming in here trying to just beat me. You know what I mean? And I was like, that's because that's the energy I'm giving to them. You know, that was crazy.
But it's not to your point though. It's funny you said that when I was training guys, I would kind of get caught up in that. And I had a realization like, yo, what if I couldn't move like this? What am I do 5, 10, 15, 20 years? Am I going to be able to still be able to teach them? So that's when I realized, all right, I got to work on like how I communicate, how I teach, and just hone in on those fine details as if I was just sitting in the chair. Could I still get this player to go from here to here just simply by my words?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's a big transition for trainers for sure.
Yeah.
So let's jump into you. You were coaching and you coached at Sidwell and you coached at St. Albans. Talk about what that was like and what did you learn in that process coaching in high school?
It's the best thing that I could have done. Because in my mind, I knew eventually I wanted to get into college. My wife wasn't ready for that yet. I want to make sure that I sat her down and said, "Hey, understand if and when we go to college, I'm traveling, I'm doing this and doing that. I'm going to miss birthdays and what have you." And she wasn't ready for that. And I was like, "Cool," because I'm not doing it unless she's 100% bored and it's not going to work. So when I got done playing, my last year playing, I played in China. Played for like 4 or 5 months. Hated it. Came home, and I still was like a semester short of my degree at Maryland. So I came back. I worked in the compliance office while going to school, and I got my degree. And that spring, I knew I was getting my degree, and I said, "Well, friend's job was open," and I applied for it. I got it, and I remember having the first team meeting and doing some drills on the court. I was like, "Oh man, like I got to teach these dudes like how to catch, how to go triple threat." And it was eye-opening at the time, but when I reflect back on it, it taught me like how to coach. I had to teach everything from like the very basics, and then I had to find my voice. My very first summer league game I coached, I got thrown out. It was halftime. Second quarter, 2 minutes ago, I got thrown out because I was in between being Morgan Wooten, and I was in between being Gary Williams. You see Gary, and I said Gary's sweating through his suit and everything. I mean, I was a maniac. And I realized shortly thereafter, like that ain't me. I'm somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
But it taught me, man, how to coach. And my first year, we went to the championship to loss of Rico Reed. Was a great dude. And then the following year, we ended up going undefeated and winning the whole thing. And then I got the job at St. Albans and was there for 4 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then you got to college next, right?
Yeah, my first job was in operations. It wasn't on the court. I got the job as director of operations at Towson University.
How did you get into that? Because the next question I'm gonna ask you is, you got a lot of younger guys that aspire to get into college, right?
Yeah.
But it's a process,
It is.
And so if you can break down like advice to how would you go about trying to get hired in college?
Yeah.
So they just talk about both of those.
That's funny. I was just talking to James Gist about this about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a process, man. Like people have, and I had this crazy idea that, hey, because I was a really good high school player, I was a McDonald's All-American, I was a high major Division I ball player, played pro ball, like somebody's gonna snatch me up. And it's like, nah, this just doesn't. You gotta put your time in, you gotta make connections and everything. If one thing if I could go back in time and do, I would have started that process even while I was still playing. Reaching out to people, hey coach, when I am in town, I love to come past the office and connect and everything, because I'm a head coach now, man. I'm off relationships. I may know some people or know of some people, but if I don't know you, I don't think I want you on my staff. This is I'm around my staff more than I am my family. Like I got to be able to trust you and everything. So I just pretty much quick story with Pat Scarry, how I got the Towson job. I didn't know Pat from Adam.
Okay.
I sent him an email. I saw he got the job. I sent him an email. And it was a Sunday night. He actually emailed me back. He said, "Hey man, like, would love to catch up with you some point in time. Let's reach out. Let's touch base sometime later this week." I found out the next day that he was going to have his press conference on a Tuesday, and I was like, I ain't relying on him saying, "Hey, we'll touch base in a few days." Like, I'm going to be proactive. Yeah. So I drove up. I took the day off. Drove up to Towson. Went to the press conference. And he comes off the stage, and I went up to him. I was like, "Coach, how you doing?" Duane Simpkins. You could see the look on his face. He was like, "Oh, damn. Like, man, I wouldn't expect you to be here." So I know that's the reason why I'm here. But I think that resonated with him. He's a go-getter and everything. And 2 weeks later, I had the job. So that's how everything started with Towson.
Man, it's crazy you say that. Like in life, people want to help people that are helping themselves.
No doubt.
If you're kind of sitting around, Joe, they want to see you motivated.
And unfortunately, us as athletes, we've been on scholarship.
Yep.
I mean, we're the ones that, hey, what time's the bus leave? What time's the flight leave? Like we just show up, and we don't actually go above and beyond. And these are the things I'm teaching my guys now. Like, man, look, don't nobody care that you got number 10 on your jersey and everything else. Like, you want to try to go set yourself for a job, whatever. Like, you need to go meet this person, meet this person, follow up, shoot an email, text, touch base, find out when their birthday is, hit them on their birthday. Like, that's the thing that's a lot of our student athletes are missing right now, is just that going the extra mile and being intentional about how they go about their work and what they do.
Yeah. Great answer. Great answer.
So what did you learn as when you was an assistant, or even from um, well, just from being an assistant that helps you now as when you became to be the head coach of the organization?
I go back even before that. What I learned as being a director of operations at the time, I was like, man, I can't go out and recruit. I can't be on the court. Like, it sucks, right? Well, everybody had told me, say, hey, son, you just gotta get your foot in the door. You're gonna get a job as an assistant a year or two later, whatever. But as a director of operations, I made phone calls to set the buses up for every game. I ordered the gear. I ordered the food. I ordered the flights. I went and picked up the tickets across campus for the flights. Like, I did everything behind the scenes that I had no idea what was going on. It exposed me to all the inner workings that need to be in place for your program to be successful. So that, to this day now as a head coach, I know what that looks like. I'm able to talk to my director of operations and go down this whole checklist, because I've been there. I know this stuff's got to get done, and I know the time that it has to get done, right? As an assistant, all the other stuff, man, is like, how to properly get a scouting report together, like what watching film entails. I thought I was watching film when I was a head coach in high school until I got to college. Wes Miller, who was a good friend of mine, head coach at Cincinnati, I was working with him at UNC Greensboro, and I remember doing my first scouting report. In my video clips, he was like, what is this? But it got to the point where it's like I was able to put a scout report together on like all the fine details, secondary break, boom, boom. Hey, this is the ATO they like to do after the first media. Hey, this is a quick hitter they're going to try to run if it's late game situation. This is what they like to run on the sideline out of bounds. Like, it took time. So those things, stuff like that, I learned as an assistant. And you pick up different things from every coach. I was fortunate enough to work with 3 first-time head coaches in Pat Skerry, Wes Miller, and most recently Kim English, who's now at Providence. And to be able to get a inside look at all the things that they go to for their first time being as a head coach, like the meeting with donors. People think I just sit in the office and talk basketball all the time. I mean, basketball is probably 25% of our job. It's all the other stuff, right? So those are the most important things I think that I learned as an assistant coach.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So then you get to Mason. So talk about that and how that started, and just that experience of being when you started the head coach at Mason.
But assistant coach.
Assistant coach.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So it was great because I spent 3 years. We're at Towson. We're at home. We had a house in Bowie at the time. So, our commute, I'm home. It was a very big move for me to take my family to North Carolina. Now, even though it's not 10 hours away or whatever, but it was away from home. My wife's from here, my kids, all that. We got a big family here in the DMV. So to uproot them and go to Carolina for 3 years, it was tough, but at the same time, it's like our kids love Carolina. Like, my wife ended up loving it. So it ended up being good. So when this job presented itself at George Mason, and I didn't know Coach Paulson, Dave Paulson. I didn't know Dave Paulson at all. He had just come from Bucknell. I had met one of his assistant coaches a few times. So I reached out and ended up getting an interview, came up, got the job. So to come home, man, was a huge blessing. In my profession, the bouncing around that you potentially will do, you're going to take your family all around the country. But to get afforded an opportunity to come here to DMV, an A-10 basketball program, have been to the Final Four, is a huge blessing. It was a huge blessing. So, to spend 8 years doing it, man, it was cool.
I really watched you do that grind too.
Yeah.
That was crazy.
So now you go in, now you become a head coach.
Mhm.
So talk about that, how different or the expectations now to becoming a head coach, and what did you learn in your first year?
Great question. My last, I'd say 5, 6 years as an assistant coach, I put myself in the mindset of a head coach. So when I was an assistant, I was like, what does Kim English need? What does Dave Paulson need? What's going to make their job easier? What would if I was them? What would they need from me? Like I put myself in that mindset for 5 or 6 years, I would say, and that helped me once I did get a head coaching job. In terms of, I didn't feel like, oh man, I got to do more and everything. I felt like I was already preparing for this for quite some time. Um, it's different from the standpoint of, I'm always thinking about my staff. I am at the success that I have or the success that I don't have, those families, those coaches and their wives and their kids, like that's on me. That's on me. So that's the biggest difference in terms of understanding like these families are tied to me. How I go is how they go. And I take a tremendous amount of pride in that. And then these scholarship players, these 13 scholarship players and 4 walk-ons, like those families and those kids, they rely on me too. That's been the biggest difference is knowing like I got to be constantly thinking about how am I going to take care of them? How am I make sure that like we're going to be aligned for success so that everybody eats. I tell my staff all the time, I say, look, I'm not expecting you guys to be here for 6, 7, 8 years. If that's your intention, I don't want you on my staff. Your thought should be, yo, we're gonna win and I'm gonna get myself a high major job, assistant coach, or I'm gonna get myself a head coaching job over here. Like I want you guys thinking that. I want to help put you guys in that position to do that. So man, for me, it's just always thinking about that's the biggest thing for me. It's like making sure that everybody's gonna be taken care of.
That's a lot of maturity, man. Obviously, thinking about everybody else. I always say, just you leading your household. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's the same concept, right? Like you got to think about everybody else
Yeah.
outside of yourself.
Yeah. Servant
And
leadership, man.
mhm.
I'm big on that. I'm a firm believer God's gonna take care of you. As long as you take care of those other people, it's gonna come back to you tenfold. You know.
So we kind of talked about what you look for, recruiting wise. But if you want to dive a little deeper into it, cool. But also, what is a player expecting? What should a player expect from you as their head coach?
Honesty. Like I'm not gonna bullshit you. Like I'm not gonna bullshit your parents. I can see sometimes we start recruiting with prospects. We start off with a Zoom, kind of introduce ourselves, especially if it's a kid from out of town. Like put a name to a face. Our whole staff is on there, and I tell them the real of like what it's going to be like, through the recruitment process. Hey, look, I ain't calling you every day. That's not realistic. I got recruited. I know what I hated. I hated my phone blowing up every day and this grown man calling me every day. I'm like, bro, we don't have anything outside this basketball thing in common.
Right.
Like, what are you? This that makes no sense to me. So I'm honest with them.
Yeah.
I'm telling them what it's going to be like during the recruitment process. I tell them where they are. Hey, we're recruiting. We need a point guard for next year. We're recruiting 4 priorities. You're one of the 4. I can't tell you where you are in that pecking order. Y'all kind of all together. If you decide that you want to come on campus for an official visit, and 2 weeks from now, that prospect is coming, or say a week from now, while you're on campus, you got first right of refusal. Once that other kid comes, you can't commit to us. As long as they're here for that 72-hour period or whatever, then they leave. All right, you can commit whatever. And it's worked pretty well for us. We had a point guard commit to us last week. And poor kid, he had 3 other visits set up afterwards. Ideally, I'd be like, man, go visit. But 2 days later, we got this other point guard coming, so you know. And I think he wants to commit too. And it went back and forth and everything. And shoot, like probably 12 hours before the other kid was gonna come, coach, I want to come. Like, all right, cool. But that would not have happened had I not been honest and been transparent. And then, for all the other kids, man, like I tell the parents, I never promise you anything. I'm never going to promise you playing time. I can promise you that we're going to push him as hard as we possibly can. He's going to get his degree, unless he just chooses not to. He's going to get his degree. We're going to make sure that he is put in connection with a bunch of other people in this community that are going to be able to help him beyond basketball 40 years from now. Like, I can promise you that, but I can't promise you how many minutes you're going to play, his shots and points per game. I may lose kids because of that. That's fine. Those kids are probably not right for me in my program. Yeah.
That's good, man. That the transparency allows. It's almost like you put it back on them. Let me tell you what you getting here, and if you want to rock with me, you already know how this is going to flow, and if you don't, that's cool.
Right.
You know, you save yourself some heartache from later on.
We had some discussions as a staff. It's like, damn, coach, man, he's really good. We might lose him. And I say this in all humility, like, kids ain't that good. It's a bunch of other ones out there, all around the country. And I said, like, we got enough connections. I know enough people. Like, it's enough good players out there. And these kids got to realize now, this ain't like it was when we came up, where, you know, okay, you don't want to commit in the fall. You just wait till the spring. Like with the transfer portal and everything else, high school kids are no longer like the priority. It is transfers, junior college players, prep school kids, and then high school kids. High school kids, you better get in where you fit in. If you find a place that you really like and they like you and it's a good fit, don't be messing around. Like, just go ahead and commit. And if you say this, hey, I got to go see other schools, I get that. But if you have seen other schools, these kids posting, I got 20 offers and I'm going to take 8 visits and this and that. Like, you can only commit to one place. Find a place that values you and a place that you can see yourself growing in and being, even on your worst day, you can see yourself being there.
That was, you jumped right into my next question about the recruitment.
I got your sheet. I've been looking at
just the transfer portal and now just from a head coach perspective, you know, why is the transfer portal, I guess, more what's the word I'm looking for? And not exciting, but why would you rather deal with the transfer portal than the high school guys now? Like, talk about that psychology on what you guys are looking for.
I can't speak.
I
can speak for just in general. I mean, you remember, right? When I came in college, Kevin McClinton, rest his soul, Kevin McClinton he would have been a senior. He was a senior when I was a freshman. I was faster. I could handle the ball better. I was more talented. I was 160 pounds at 6 foot. He was 6'3", 210, point guard, who had been through 3 years of college. He was a grown man. I was a boy. And as talented as I was from a physical standpoint and experience standpoint, he was light years ahead of me. And so when college coaches look at a kid come out of high school who probably hasn't been pushed hard, who hasn't been gone through strength and conditioning program, who hasn't been, Kevin McClinton went to Cameron Indoor Stadium 3 times. It would have been my first time. It would have been my first time going to Dean Dome. He had done it 3 times. That experience and that age and size and strength, that's a big, big deal. And so from a college coach's perspective, if I can get a kid who's 21, 22 years old versus a kid who's 18, knowing that ADs are now firing coaches after 3 years, they're not letting them ride out 5 years. Like, my job's on the line every single year. I got to win now. That is the mindset in general of college coaches.
Yeah, that great point.
You can see that's the reason why I think you're going to see a lot more of mid-majors. If you get mid-majors that are going to be together, that are old, they're going to go they can beat a Carolina. They can go beat a Kentucky, Oakland. Kentucky had some good talented players. They got NBA players, but they were babies. Oakland had grown men. Oakland knocks them off. There's going to be a lot more of that because you're going to find more teams that these kids jumping all around. You're going to have this five or six transfers that's at USC versus this team right here that's been together for 3 or 4 years. They're gonna meet up with each other in the Sweet 16. It's gonna be like, oh man, we got a Cinderella. Like, nah, that's just reality.
We're gonna jump into that when we talk about the NIL a little bit later.
Okay.
But what I want to ask, you said something early on about, you know, you had a real conversation with your wife, right? And she needed to be on board.
Yeah.
Right. How do you maintain this balance with family life and being a head coach?
It's tough.
Or just give us some best practices.
Best practices: don't walk in the door on the phone. Wrap that phone call up. You can sit in your car for 20 minutes. You still got to have that conversation with this recruit. Have a time that when you do go through that door, you're off the phone. Put the babies down, spend time with them, whatever. Any phone calls, and just talk to your prospects or their parents or whoever. Hey, I'm going to be available after 8:30, after 9. Don't don't answer every phone call at the dinner table. Like that is your sacred time with your family. You don't have so much time with them during the course of a day.
Mhm.
That goes a long way with your wife, because she's more times than that. She's got, especially if you got more than one like we did. She's a single parent
Yeah.
quite a bit, and to not give them that time is selfish, and that's how she's gonna take it. Where's your camera at? Yeah, put that phone down. Help your wife out.
That's big right there. Show.
You know, when when you talked about the kids in college, and you would rather kind of have that more experienced, polished kid or athlete than that freshman coming in.
Yeah.
It's weird because they said that college coaches want to win now,
Yeah.
right? But then when you think about the NBA, they'll take that kid that's 18 or 19 that has a potential than this guy that's been battle tested and polished and ready to kind of go and contribute.
Right.
That it's just switched like that.
Yeah. NBA dudes, they look at it from like, all right, we need to have him. We wanted his ceiling, that room for his ceiling time to be like this, as opposed to being like this. Like
Mhm.
college coaches, we don't give a damn about the NBA stuff. Like our job is now.
Mhm.
How can I win now? And it's getting older guys and everything. And I remember NBA college coaches. It used to be a thing like, hey, I produce X amount of NBA players and everything. That sounds good right now, but like, how can I keep my job? That's more important than anything, you know.
Mhm. Um, so now you touched on the social media earlier,
Mhm.
but what you think probably the pros and the cons with the social media within basketball now?
Um, Pros. I mean, there's a benefit to this, the technology that we have now, and kids getting seen. You know, I've come across some European players that, somebody DM me or whatever, and I'm looking like, oh, he can play. And I wouldn't have, back in the day, it was getting videotapes sent to you and everything, and VHS and all that stuff. But that's a plus. Um, Obviously, the communication, you can connect with somebody easier. The downside, I think, is when kids get consumed with it, and they get consumed about quote unquote highlights, as opposed to my son. Me and him battle over it all the time. Like, he's a good player, but this dude, he won't sit and watch a basketball game. But he'll watch. He loves the kid Elliot Cadeau at Carolina. He will sit and watch his YouTube thing for an hour, and like all of his mates. And I'm like, bruh, have you seen him miss a shot? And he's like, nah. I said, because it's highlights. And one of his problems is he loses confidence when he misses shots and everything. He's supposed to be a shooter. I'm like, bro, in your mind, you're forcing yourself to believe that he's a good player because, man, look at all the good stuff he does. Watch a game and see how he struggles and how does he bounce back from struggles. And I think a lot of kids, they watch that and they can kind of get it jaded in terms of what real basketball is. You know what I mean? So I think that could be a potential downside.
Okay. So we always talk about training culture because uh, it just kind of like took over, or the trainer kind of being the handler, or it's everybody's a trainer now. So
Right.
like, talk about the training culture of what you think, how your feelings of the training culture
I
now.
mean, I'm all for, man. If somebody genuinely wants to help kids and everything, whether you feel um, he's good enough, does he have a track record or whatever, like that's cool. My biggest issue is trainers who are working with players, but they have no idea of the high school system that they play or the college system that they play. Like, have you sat and watched film and see where's he going to get his shots in their system? Is he going to be a guy they're going to let him dribble 10, 15 times and then go for a shot? All right, cool. We'll work on that. But if, say, a player works, offense is a flex, like you need to have him learning how to set a screen, fly off a screen. If a team is a heavy ball screen team, like are those ball screens occurring in the middle third more times than not? Or are they in wings? What are, do things according to what you see is going to be best for that particular student athlete. You know what I mean? So I would hope that they, and I'm not saying all trainers don't do it. I know some that do. They actually take the time to do that. But go to a college practice and see how hard they're going in those reps, what type of system they run. Like do those things to add value to your training.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that was some good advice there.
Make it game related.
Make it game related. There you go.
And so now it's the NIL. Like, would love if we had it. We was playing.
Man, we would too. I got a couple of dollars.
So, what's your thoughts on NIL and because now people are saying like it's the conversation and recruiting is just totally different.
I don't go through that. I'm not at that level. So like I've got some friends who, Big Ten and SEC and everything, and it's like to hear some of the conversations that they have it is mind blowing. I can't even get a prospect on the phone because I got to talk to his agent, and if we're not within 50 grand of what they're looking for, like I can't even talk to that kid. I've had some coaches tell me like, man, we got this new practice facility we're building, and we're like, man, we don't even need that practice facility anymore because they're not even asking about that stuff. They just want to know how much money can I get, right? So, and it is. I'm assuming it's not everywhere. I know for a fact UConn is not saying we're chasing guys. They're like, we got a championship culture. You want to be here or not? We want to have some NIL for you. But what's really interesting to me is, first I'll say this: I am all for kids, student athletes, making money off of their name, image, and likeness. You're damn right. I remember being on Coach K's basketball and seeing number 10 left-handed little black figure shooting jump shots on that video game that I spent $59.99 for, and I know they made billions off of it. I didn't see a dime off of that. So I know the value. They should get something. Where the problem that I have is it's unregulated. There's no transparency to it. You could call me and say, I represent Stanley, and Stanley has been offered $250,000. And I'm like, all right, I can't go into a database and find out if it's true. You're going to call somebody else and say, hey, Duane Simpkins said, man, he was going to offer him $350. And I told you $250, but you wouldn't call somebody else. And man, Duane Simpkins said $350. So now you're driving the price up. And I don't even know. Nobody knows. More importantly, once a kid does get there, and I think these numbers will start to flesh itself out. You'll start to hear stories 2 or 3 years now because it's so new. You're going to find out that Stanley was told he was going to get 300. Stanley ended up getting 125. But how do we know if he got all of his money that he signed up for? We don't know. So that's the downside to it. And then also the lack of financial literacy. Are these kids being told you got to put just chop 40% off of that. Taxes. You're gonna find out some people not paying taxes. They're gonna find out they're gonna be in a hole 3, 5, 6, 7 years from now, and they're gonna feel the brunt of that into adulthood. So I just hope those things get fleshed out, and I think they will. I think Congress is probably going to have to step in and start to put some guardrails in place where things can be more regulated. But at the end of the day, they should be able to get something.
It's crazy you said that, man. It's like, in a way, it's like the streets. You got the middleman taxing, stepping on everything. That's crazy.
No different.
But let me ask you this also. We talked about the mid majors, like a Oakland, right? And these guys are staying together, but with the NIL now, right? Their best player might not want to stay there
For sure.
because now you
Yeah.
know he has an opportunity to play for
That's real.
a bag. You know, not
Mhm.
I ain't even gonna say a team. He just gets the chance to play for
Mhm.
some money.
Yeah.
Like, how's that affecting the mid majors on that level?
I'll be able to speak on that more in depth in the next year or two because I think I got a couple players that's pretty good, and
Okay.
it's gonna be. I mean, I've made that realization. Like, it's gonna be difficult.
Hmm.
It's gonna be, and it's not. If I got a player who say doesn't come from much, and in his third year, his junior year, he gets offered $250,000 to go to wherever. I can't, in my right conscience, look that kid and his family in the eye and say, "You got to stay here for this American degree." And the American degree is very valuable. There's no doubt about it. But if I know that family and their struggles, and I know that 250,000, let's say he's a sophomore, and I know that in the next 2 years he might be able to make $500,000. I got to be like, I'll help you.
Yeah.
I'll help you. Right. So that's the tough part. What I hope happens though is on the flip side, there are gonna be some kids that are coming from high majors that aren't playing much. They might get a little NIL, and they just like, I just want to go play. I want to find somewhere where I can play and like make an impact. And I think it's enough players where like you're gonna have some kids leaving mid majors going up, and some kids who are on the end of the benches at the high majors. They're like, yo, I know I can play, but I'm not gonna play here. I want to go down a level so that I can play. So I
Yeah.
think there'll be some back and forth with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nah, great. All right, man. We down to the end, man. We play this game called Either Or.
Uh-oh.
All right. Do we got the? You know how people do drink champs. This is ginger,
Oh.
so it's healthy,
Okay.
right?
All right.
So we still trying to figure this out. The first one had no consequences, so you could either answer the question or say both, right?
Either answer the question or say both. Okay.
Right. I'm gonna give you one or the other. You gotta answer the question or you say both. If you say both, all of us gotta take a hit of ginger.
Okay.
It's healthy.
All right.
All right.
We need to do one where just do push-ups or something.
I thought you had some bourbon over there. So it's like you're doing shots a little early in the morning for this.
No, I need some water when we do this.
I eat this all the time. Do you? No?
Ginger, I with
With the smoothies?
No, with sushi from time to time. The little
With the sushi?
yeah.
Oh, okay. I gotta try that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Little
I
small
gotta try
pieces
that.
of it. Yeah.
All right. Here we go. The Mather or Maryland?
The math.
Okay. All right. Coaching or playing?
Both.
All right. I'm gonna let you go ahead.
Oh man.
Yeah.
It ain't that bad, is it?
When it's dry like that, yeah, it hit different.
Uh-huh.
You do that normally?
Mm-hmm. There you go.
Damn,
Probably twice a day. I take a big.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I got tired of putting it in a smoothie. You know, like it take a long time to do that, and all I really want is that.
Mm. All right.
Try
Try that. See what happens.
You know. All right.
I ain't messing with that.
St. Albans or Sidwell?
Sidwell won
Okay.
a championship there, man.
All right. John Wallace or Othello Harrington?
John
Had
Wallace.
to bring it back to your McDonald's All-American.
Othello in high school. Othello was thorough.
Yeah.
He was good. Didn't have the type of NBA career, obviously, but like for a college player, yeah. Othello was really good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Chris Collins or Tony Delp?
Tony Delp, TD all day. TD ran off 21 straight points on us at Boo Williams, my DC players team, AAU team. It was a dogfight. He ran off 21 straight. I ain't never seen a player run off 21 straight on me before.
Bad man.
Bad dude.
You know, it's funny. You know, in these podcasts now, they talk about these guys back in the day. You know, like they weren't good.
Man,
and I'm just like, man,
right.
Tony Delp played today with, you know, the smaller guard being able to shoot the ball all the time. I'm like, I don't know, man.
TD was like 3 or something, but his arms was like 6'8", 6'9", and he could just
like Lou Williams in a way.
Yeah, well, handle wasn't as tight, but like could score the basketball.
Yeah,
no doubt, no doubt.
Keith Booth or Joe Smith?
Love Keith Death. Come on, Joe. Joe was a problem, bro. Like walking 20, 10, and 3. Like, yeah.
Okay.
Love Keith though.
All right. Went back to the 90s on this. Glenn Robinson or Glenn Rice?
Big dog.
Big dog.
6'9". That was like before 6'9" guards was prevalent. Like 6'9" scored. The dude averaged 30 a game in college, bro. Like, yeah, big dog all day.
Okay. Allen Houston or Eddie Jones?
You trying to score, or what you trying to do?
You trying to win? Let's.
I'm gonna put myself as a point guard.
Yeah.
I want Allen Houston rocking with me in the backcourt. One of the sweetest strokes you ever gonna see.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Where we go with this? Isaiah Thomas or John Stockton?
The original Isaiah Thomas.
Yeah, for sure.
You may think it's obvious. Zeke was a bad dude. Stockton, point guard, man. Like I gotta say both, bro. I hate to do it. Stockton. I need a small piece. There we go. Stockton. I think Stockton is still the all-time steals leader.
And assist leader, right?
Thanks. Maybe. I think somebody broke that. But he's a dude, if Michael Jordan wasn't in his era, him and Karl Malone win the championship at some point.
Twice.
In time. Yes. Like, yeah. Tough white dude there. He's drinking that water.
All right. Jason Kidd or Gary Payton?
Never played against a glove, but J. Kidd was different. J. Kidd, I think we've all had players that we play against and it's like, he's really good or whatever. Jason Kidd was the first point guard that I ever played against. That after I played against him the first time, I went back to my hotel room, was like, he's better than me. There's been some other dudes that like, they might have had a better game than me, but I like in my heart, I felt I was better than them. But he was the first one I was like, nah, he's different. 6'4", 205, fast. Couldn't shoot it that well, but could pass. Yeah, J. Kidd all day on that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I was gonna say you gotta experience that firsthand.
No doubt.
Okay. All right, this is an interesting one. Magic or LeBron?
Damn.
It was closer than I thought it was gonna be.
Nostalgia would tell me Magic.
Yeah.
6'8", 260, doing what he does from an athletic perspective. LeBron is just different. Some of my old head dudes they're gonna cuss me out if I say. I'm gonna say both, bro. I ain't gonna get these phone calls in the air like Zip, you sell out. I had to talk that one out. It's a good one though.
Okay, that's funny. I because you played back in the day. That's why I brought that one out. And I'm like if I ask a new era person, they would just pick Brown all day.
For sure.
All right, Allen Iverson or Steph?
Steph. I love it. AI is like another dude. Like he's an anomaly. Just like LeBron is at 6'8", 260, whatever. Like that dude doing what he did at 6 foot, 6'1", is unreal. But what Steph does, Steph has changed the game of basketball in ways that Michael Jordan didn't do. There's not many 6'6" dudes with big hands with 40-inch verticals, so everybody can't mimic that, but everybody can mimic a 6'1", 6'2" guard shooting the basketball and handling the basketball like he does.
Mm-hmm.
He's completely changed the game of basketball.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. D Wade or Paul Pierce?
D Wade.
D Wade.
D Wade.
Okay.
Maybe Paul Pierce. I don't like his whole stick now on TV, and I think he's doing too much. So that may sway me a little bit more towards D Wade.
All right. That's honest. That's honest. Okay. Kobe or Bron?
Kobe,
Okay.
winner, tough, dog.
Yeah.
LeBron is good and a dog like we saw him in Michael Jordan and Kobe, I think, though.
Yeah. Okay. Last one. I think I already know the answer to this. I was going to say Bron or MJ.
MJ.
Yeah.
MJ. Yeah. I love LeBron's very talented. But all you young kids, just go watch Michael Jordan. Like, watch games. Don't watch no highlights. Watch games when he had to like take over offensively and defensively and will teams to win. Like, I think I only seen LeBron do that one time back in the day against Detroit. Like, that was MJ all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That you hit it right on the money with that one. You're right. He just his willpower.
Yeah.
You know, it was unmatched.
Yeah. I think so.
Mm-hmm.
I think so.
Oh, I want to ask a question. We was doing another interview. A guy was comparing today's game, NBA, to it was like ABA. He said,
yeah, ABA.
He said it's just
These
today's
quick
game
shots.
is like how the ABA was. I mean, I don't know too much about how
ABA,
that was.
Yeah, the ABA was. They were trying to compete with the NBA, and they were trying to like, hey, let's get more points. Let's score more points and everything. I could see some of that. You know, no guys can. If I really believe it, certain guys during the '90s, if you would have put them in now, because of the free flowing game, you can't touch anybody, you shoot the threes and everything. There's certain players that would average 40. I think Michael Jordan wasn't shooting a ton of threes at the time. He would have evolved and he would have been shooting more threes. The lane would have been so much bigger. He would have got to the basket whenever he wanted to, unimpeded. You can make an argument. Larry Bird, I mean, you tell Larry Bird, hey, we need you to get 15 threes up a game. Like, Larry Bird could average 34, 35, right?
Because he was only probably shooting maybe 6 or 7 back in the day.
They weren't shooting that many at the time. That's just not how the game was played. You had two postmen that was sitting in the paint. You watch a big NBA game back in the day, man, it looks like all these players like within 15 minutes feet from the basket. But now it's like everything's spread out. So,
and you made another good point. Just the pick and roll. You know what I mean? I remember I didn't really learn the pick and roll till I got to college because we never really ran it in high school.
Yeah.
You know, and it took a long time for me to learn how to kind of puppet master that thing because I wasn't used to it.
right.
You know, and now like everything is a pick and roll.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
and the better players and better coaches utilize it where it's like, I teach my kids all the time. You come off a ball screen, like more than likely you are not scoring. Well, what you are doing, you got to maneuver the defense. And you're looking on the backside of like, all right, who's helping? Where's he helping from? How do I get it through? How do I get that pass to him? You know what I mean? So it's like it's a chess game. But when I learned how to do it, I think that's one of the best parts of the game if you can master stuff like that, man.
so you basically saying you create the pick and roll is to create an advantage,
Yes.
not necessarily for you to score.
Exactly. You
Trainers, hear that?
got two people on the ball, you get the ball out of it. We're probably playing 4-on-3, 3-on-2 in some way, but like the better point guards or ball handlers or guards, they're able to see that and make the proper pass at the proper time. Coming out of practice, man, we do it all the time.
Oh, you know what he asked? And you'll ask from the coach's perspective. So we always give the scenario, right? Every guest. 12 seconds left. Down one.
My go-to shot, I
What's
seen
your
y'all do this
go-to
to Christmas,
move?
man. Like I wasn't no scores like them dudes, man. For me at Maryland, 12 seconds, we need a bucket. Hey Joe, where you at, man? Throw the ball right in the post to you. For me, hard left hand dribble, 2-3 dribbles, and I had like a behind the back kind of like step back into my shot because people always thought I would just want to go left, so I'll drive you hard and get you going, pull back. I might get one off 15, 17 feet. That's when you can shoot mid ranges.
Yeah.
Back in the
Okay.
day. Yeah.
All right. Cool. All right. Now let's draw it up as a coach. I don't want to give away your goodies, but let's just say 10 seconds left. You're down 2. You know, like what you doing? How you getting your team organized to get this bucket?
It's funny, we had a game against Colgate this year, and Colgate had the longest win streak in the country at the time. And they had not lost a game in February in like 5 or 6 years. We were down. We had lost. We finished in second place this year. We spent the last month and a half with 3 of our top players due to injury. But in this game, we had walk-ons, like national TV game. We weren't supposed to be in the game. We're up the whole game. They tied with 8 seconds to go.
Yeah.
Our point guard, who is second team all conference, lefty, quick, 5'9", he can get to the paint and everything. In situations like that, you don't overthink it. I'm gonna get the best player the ball, and ideally in a situation where, like, I know that they were switching all ball screens. Hey, let's go 1-5 ball screen and let's get that 5-man switched off on you. Like, bro, make a play, and that was it. We wanted 5-man switched off on him. He boogie a little bit. Step back 17-footer. We win the game with two seconds left. We win the game. So, like, sometimes don't overthink it. Just put the ball in your best player's hand and give him some space. Yeah,
It's crazy. We didn't heard that from about 3 different point guards who just said that. You know, who coach.
Don't overthink it, man. Don't overthink it.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, so that kind of wraps it up. But at the end, we always you done gave so much advice, dropped so much jewels. Want you to look in the camera and just give players, parents, just some advice about, kids that want to go on this journey and play basketball, make that a career, or want to be, aspire to be a coach. It's just
That's good. I will say, especially in this day and age of everybody knows who's getting offers and everything else, like, tell your kids to run their own race. Run your own race. Don't look at little Jimmy on his AAU team. I heard he got offered from this school. Why isn't my son gotten offered? Run your own race. You put your time in, do what you're supposed to do, work hard in the classroom. At the end of the day, you may not have 15 offers, you may have 3. You can only choose one anyway. And for you aspiring coaches, man, like, do it for the right reasons. Do it for wanting to pour into the young student athletes, the young men and women that you're working with. The game is going to reward you on the back end. But truly put yourself in position to pour into the student athletes that you're working with. One of the biggest things I would say.
All right, child, man. Y'all heard it from the legend himself, man. Definitely thank you for coming on
No
the
doubt.
show.
I appreciate
Wish
y'all
you
having me, man.
much success this year.
Need y'all come out with some AU games this year. Got tickets for you, so just let me know.
We'll be there. We'll definitely. That's an easy
sure.
trip for me.
Good.
So yeah, we'll definitely be there with the whole crew.
Good.
Yeah. So make sure y'all subscribe, like, share this out. And
and remember, stay game related.